What's going on, guys? Dr. Andrew Fix back here from the Code. Thank you so much for tuning in, listening to this episode. Um, Man, it's a new year. Hopefully, you set some great resolutions. You had awesome holidays, and this is the first episode that I'm having the pleasure of recording after we have stepped into 2025 here. And as you know, I'm from Physio Room, and we're here on the Code. However, you're tuning in, really appreciate your time. What we're going to do today is briefly talk about this concept of finding balance. And I guess I would say I'm not a very big work-life balance person as it relates to balancing time with work versus time with other things, because my thought process is if you're really passionate about what you do and you integrate your work into your life, um, I don't really feel like I need to have work-life balance. I really like the term work-life integration. And there's many times where I bring our little man, Aiden, into the clinic, and I might be spending time at work, spending time with a colleague or something. However, it feels like play to me because I'm spending time with my son. Or I might be out at a marketing event, and I might be working a race, but I also run the race while we're there. And, I'm doing something that I enjoy, going for a run while doing something that's beneficial from a work-life standpoint as well. So work-life balance doesn't necessarily need to mean that you're either at work or you're not, but I totally understand it. It depends on what you do also, right? It depends on what your job is, what your family situation is, and to each their own with that topic. But we're going to talk about balance as it relates to. I was listening to another podcast. This is a very popular show, much more popular than this, which I appreciate you guys tuning in to make it even more popular. And for all of you that have already gone out and left reviews and things on this show, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate that. But one of the things that they were talking about on that particular episode I was listening to on that other show was the concept of burnout. And this podcast I was listening to is specifically marketed and geared towards men, entrepreneurial, busy fathers, husbands, brothers, etc. People that are trying to be successful in their career. But what oftentimes comes along with that, you're constantly pushing, 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 you're grinding. And I know this podcast I was listening to is geared towards men, but this goes for all the ladies listening to this episode too. You're pushing, you're grinding, you're trying to get after it day after day. But sometimes we can dip into burnout with those things. And sometimes we can overwhelm ourselves with, like, we've got too much going on. We're working too much. We're trying to fitness too much. We're trying to father and mother and do all of the things and be all of the things to everybody too much, to the point where we burn ourselves out. And then what happens usually after that is you need a big period of like decompression, and you go to the point where you crash, you plateau, and you have to then decrease, and then you have to build it back up, and then you decrease and build it back up. So anyways, what the host on that show was talking about, and I totally agree with it, and we'll use some analogies, is rather than working so hard to the point where you hit the peak, you burn out, and then you have to crash, what would be better is we just need to know and find, and sometimes it takes dipping into this a little bit to find this out, but we need to find what our limits are. You need to find what your bottom limit is in terms of like, what is the least amount that I can do where I am still productive and I'm still moving the needle forward, I'm still taking care of myself. And then what's the upper limit that I can do where I am maxing things out, but I'm not tipping into that burnout stage. I'm not going too far past that limit to where, you're going to end up having to take a decline after that. And if you can just stay in balance in between those limits, know what your limits are and operate within them, as opposed to going past the limit and then having to back off later on, you are going to be able to be so much more consistent. And that's really what we're looking for, is the consistency. Because whether we're talking about exercise, whether that's strength training, whether that's running and cardio exercise, whether that's yoga, mobility work, whatever, whether we're talking about meditation and mindfulness, whether we're talking about nutrition and fueling ourselves appropriately to achieve a particular aesthetic, lose weight, gain weight, train for a fitness competition or a figure show, whatever that might be, consistency is what's going to get you there, much more than, trying to hammer it and then having to back off. Trying to hammer it and then having to back off again. Consistency is what's going to get you there. Now, please don't get me wrong. There has to be some intensity. Intensity and consistency are probably going to be the two most important things when it comes to training for things. Like take a marathon, for example. If your goal is to run a marathon at a 9-minute pace per mile, just going for a ton of walks is not going to get you there. The activity is not intense enough to lead to that outcome. But trying to train and, sprinting every single day is not going to get you there either, right? We need to have the intensity match the outcome that you're looking for. And then we need to have the consistency. You can't train for a marathon in a day. You can't train for a marathon in a week. You need to build over time and build the consistency into your routine of your training, gradually progress that so that you don't get yourself hurt, ultimately leading up to that event. And then probably, because you were training for that, you will take a little time off. But in the game of life and not burning yourself out, we need to find those boundaries and we need to operate within them. So, I would love to hear your guys' stories. I mean, I think in some respects, it probably takes 1 or 2 times of dipping past that upper limit for you to actually find what that is. But many, many people have found what that is. People listening to this show have probably found what that is and know what it feels like to feel a little burned out. And they know how good it feels to operate just a little bit below that, where they're highly productive. They're doing a lot of the things they want to be doing, and they keep moving the needle forward day after day, week after week. And if you have stories, man, please share them in the comments, comment, post, leave a review, etc. Like, share those things. We'd love to hear them so that we can, we can talk about those and share those examples with other people. So, again, find your limits, operate within them, and keep moving the needle forward. Consistency is the name of the game. And we hope to catch you guys on another episode of The Code. We'll see you later.